my husband has this really awesome app where, you know, a song can be playing anywhere, like in a coffee shop or something like that, and you want to know what the song is and the artist, and you just hold the phone up in the air so it can hear the song, and then the phone tells you the name of the song and the artist who sings it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it will not heal your mind. You know, knowing the name of the song is not going to heal your mind. So meditation will. So what is meditation? So funny I should ask, because there's a great chapter in the back of this book called What is Meditation? You can even read along and find out more about it, delving into something really beautiful, and you can contemplate and expand what you're hearing in these classes on your own by reading about it on your own. So I highly recommend this book, Transform Your Life. It's very direct, very profound, very accessible. So there's a chapter that's actually called What is Meditation? So it says here in this chapter, it says, as mentioned earlier, if our mind is peaceful, we will be free from worries and mental discomfort, and so we will experience true happiness. But if our mind's not peaceful, we'll find it very difficult to be happy, even if we're living in the best conditions. If we train in meditation, our mind will gradually become more and more peaceful, and we will experience a pure and purer form of happiness. Eventually, we will be able to stay happy all the time, even in the most difficult circumstances. So when he says a pure and purer form of happiness, it means a happiness that doesn't depend upon the externals. So in Buddhism, we say that the real source of happiness, as we looked at in previous weeks, is inner peace. So happiness is a state of mind, of course, and it arises from peaceful states of mind. So I've already alluded to this, that we need to think about this very deeply, because we often associate happiness with excitement, with stimulation. You know, that's how we associate happiness, with excitement, with stimulation. You know, it was such a happy day. It was so stimulating. You know, I'm hoping I can stay stimulated for the rest of my life, so that I'll never ever have to pass myself. You know, I'll never have to pass myself, because I can just stay stimulated and distract myself. But it's not real happiness, because it's stimulation. And basically, if your happiness depends on stimulation, sooner or later, your stimulation is going to stop. Whatever it is that's stimulating you is going to stop. So it will become an obsessive need for stimulation, an addiction to stimulation, which kind of describes our society. We are addicted to stimulation. We're running away from the lack of peace in our hearts. So when we discover actual peace in our hearts, we discover actual happiness. And it is, so to speak, unconditional happiness, because it doesn't matter whether you are being stimulated or not, because your happiness is actually just arising from within. So if your friend or your partner is saying nice things to you, you are joyful, you're happy, you're enjoying that. If your friend or partner is not saying nice things to you, you're still enjoying. You're enjoying your own mind. You're enjoying the internal bliss that arises from having mastered your mind. So sometimes when people hear, you know, they actually get worried. That someone after class one time, they said to me, they said, come on, you need ignorance, or else you won't have any motivation to be active. So I think what this person meant was, if you're just being peaceful and happy, you're just going to be kind of passive, right? And people are just going to step all over you because you're just sort of being peaceful and happy. You're an easy target, something like that. In other words, you're associating being peaceful and happy with almost like a jello state. You know, like some people, they look at Buddha and they think Jello man. You know, something like that, meaning, you know, he's peaceful and he's happy, and if you push him a little, You know, he'll kind of move a little bit, but then he'll kind of settle back, something like that. He's not very active. He's not very engaged in the world. He's not out there doing stuff. He's just sort of hanging. So nothing can actually be further from the truth. And what we need to understand is when we're trying to solve our problems, so we always have some sort of problem arising. So when we're trying to solve our problems within the paradigm of delusions, principally trying to solve our problems through the mind of anger, or through the mind of attachment, or through the mind of ignorance, it may look like we're being active, but it's actually very counterproductive, because what it is we're seeking happiness. We're seeking happiness through a state of mind by engaging in actions with a mind that won't actually give us happiness. You know, we seek stimulation. That's why we do everything that we do. We seek happiness through a mind of attachment, thinking happiness can be found out there. So we're just constantly seeking stimulation. That's why we do a lot of what we do. But we're trying to find happiness through our mind of attachment, or if we're trying to find happiness through a mind of anger, through a mind of ignorance, it's actually the reason why we're not experiencing happiness. So it's counterproductive because it doesn't actually lead to real fruition. But if we can discover real peace and happiness within, it will not make us passive. I promise it will not make us passive. It will make us highly, highly creative, highly active, but actually you could say incredibly solution-oriented, because you'll understand that, you'll actually understand the solution, basically. You'll feel so incredibly positive because you'll actually embody the solution. You know, you'll be able to be the change that you want to see in the world. You'll be able to create actual inner peace, actual wisdom, actual love, actual compassion within your heart. And you'll be an active catalyst for transformation for everyone all around you. So I was telling one of the classes, I can't remember which one because I teach a lot of different classes, but they found that from an aerial point of view, whenever there's a big accident, something catastrophic happens, everyone migrates towards the person who's remaining calm. It's like that person becomes a source of refuge for everyone else. So we might say, well, Buddha doesn't look so active. But 2,600 years later, after his attainment of enlightenment, the ripples of his attainment of enlightenment are still washing over us. And there's a lot of various historical figures that, you know, appeared to be active, like Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan. You know, they went out and they were very active. They conquered a lot of stuff. They conquered a lot of stuff, and it didn't actually amount to very much. They conquered a bunch of stuff and they lost it all. Finally, it amounted to nothing. Finally, nothing, you know? I guess a lot of devastation, that's what it amounted to at the time, but finally nothing. So it actually makes us, you know, it makes us want to think, you know, what does it actually mean to live an active life? What does that actually mean? So an active life is an active inner life. It's training your heart. It's getting in touch with your potential. So in Buddhism, there are many levels of practice. There are beginner preliminary meditations, like what we just did, Buddha taught, the tantric teachings, which are the highest level of even his most profound tantric teachings, are very identical, almost identical to the breathing meditation we did in the beginning. It's a little bit of a different focus, a little bit of a different context, but identical. And personally, when I realized that, made me realize, what an astounding teacher Geshe Kelsang is, because he's basically shows us how all the different practices coalesce, and eventually you see how they're all taking us to the same place, to the same point. So why, for example, do we always breathe in peaceful light in all the meditations that we do? It's because the actual nature of our mind is peaceful light. The nature of our mind is peaceful light. Not physical light, but the light of consciousness, the light of awareness, the inner illumination. Our mind is by nature peaceful, so when we're breathing this peaceful light into our heart, we're doing it precisely so that we can connect to the naturally abiding peaceful light of consciousness within our heart. So it's not just like, hey, let's imagine the breath as peaceful light. That might be fun. It's serving a very, very specific, incredibly profound function to take us deep into the actual nature of our consciousness that abides at our heart, which is just naturally tranquil, naturally luminous, spacious, joyful. It's a treasure within, and we can learn to actually tap into it every day. Now, initially, you can only tap into it for a very little bit, your divine nature for just a very little bit, maybe just a few seconds. But even a few seconds is actually huge, because you're getting a glimpse of your Buddha nature, your potential for enlightenment. Because the thing is, if you can change a little bit, you can change a lot. If you can change your mind a little bit, you can change your mind a lot. If your mind can become a little bit more peaceful by applying meditation, it follows that you can actually become a lot more peaceful. You can actually be tapping into an astounding potential within your heart, unlimited. The more you get a sense of this fluid, flexible, vast state of consciousness, the more you begin to recognize, you know what? I'm not actually who I thought I was. So what do I mean by that? We start to think, I'm not actually who I thought I was. You begin to become aware of the possibility, the experience of peace, the experience of tranquility in your heart, and that opens you up to the possibility of just abiding, living in a state of peace, in a state of tranquility and happiness, mental freedom and joy. In other words, you're gaining direct insight into your potential, that the potential that is a reflection of your actual nature. You're gaining direct insight into that. And what you want to do is, and this is really, really important, as a meditator, this is really important. So like when I guided the meditation, and at the end of the meditation I said, if you're feeling a little bit more peaceful than you were when you first came in, and even if it's like, yeah, during the meditation I experienced 2 seconds of peace, I did feel a little bit more peaceful, you want to focus on that and allow yourself to abide in that peaceful experience, just enjoying it, because what you want to do is, and really just sort of pause whenever you're experiencing a little bit of peace and just say, you know what? This is my potential. This is reflective of the possibility, my potential, my nature. This is showing me I can change. I can change. That message needs to get through to us, on the conscious level of the mind, and it needs to get through to us on the unconscious level of the mind. It needs to get through, because at the moment, mostly we identify ourselves as someone who can't change, or certainly can't change very much. We identify with our limitations. So we conceive ourselves to be a person of such and such characteristics, such and such personality. I'm a person who just gets depressed in these circumstances, gets angry in these circumstances. I get a little